Council. Good morning, Curt. How are you?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing great.
Can't believe it's September already. Man, the summer went by way too fast, I feel like.
It did, and we're going to squeeze a few more weeks out of it.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, and you know what? I had the Y director point out to me, like, the first day of fall isn't until what is it? I'm trying to find the
23rd. 20th? Yeah, 23rd. There it is.
Apple and Pork weekend officially begins the fall. So there you go. That's a perfect way to do it too, I think. Very good. All right, Curt. Well, let's dive into, I know you and I did a deep dive into the Rev Grant opportunity last time around, and still looking for folks to apply. Tell us about Rev Grants.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is probably your last radio reminder from me anyway of the Rev Grant. That application is due September 15th. So 2 weeks from today. So that calendar changed, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we're in panic mode. Don't worry about that. There's still time, but absolutely get the application in. Mm-hmm. Go to DCDC Facebook page. You can go to First National Bank and Trust page as well. Mm-hmm. There's a link that's going to get you to both of those. And again, the Rev Grant is a partnership between DCDC and First National Bank and Trust. Mm-hmm. There's $15,000 that's set aside for this particular grant program. Mm-hmm. And that will be dispersed in November.
Sure. So now you don't want to wait till the last minute to put this application together either. Talk about that a little bit.
No, absolutely not. So if you haven't gone to the site, do that right now. Do it today. Go on there to look to see what you need. But there's certainly some questions that you need to go through and put together. A little bit of financial documentation that is necessary. You're going to need to, if what the purchase or what the grant funds will be used for. Mm-hmm. So if it's an equipment purchase, you're going to need to get some documentation on cost and those types of things. And then you really want to explain how that grant money is going to help your business succeed or improve or whatever that process is.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to think through all of those things and then, write all that down intelligently and then get that thing turned in.
Yeah. Sure. You were telling me you can tell the applications that were put together in a rush versus ones that were well done.
Correct. Yeah. And there's a distinct difference generally, mm-hmm. that when that happens, people think, oh, well, I'll get to it that day or the mm-hmm. day before. Mm-hmm. Don't wait, because there may be something on there. Oh, I didn't realize I was going to need to get this stuff together.
Sure.
And for the most part, if not for the most part, if the stuff's not there, you don't make the cut. Mm-hmm. So make sure all those items are there. And again, I want to remind everyone too that if you have a $500,000 project and you're thinking is, hey, I'm going to apply for some Rev Grant funds. Again, we only have $15,000. From a practical perspective, the judges haven't liked the fact that, hey, if you can contribute $2,000 or $3,000 to my $500,000 project, that would be great. I understand that from the business perspective. However, from the judge's perspective, they want to make a bigger impact than that. So try to narrow that focus down a little bit.
Yeah.
To realistic dollars that anywhere from $2,500 to $15,000 would help fund.
Yeah, you mentioned the $15,000 pool. So yeah, talk a little bit about that, where that comes from, those sorts of things.
Yeah. So so just to follow up my last comment, so the $15,000 pool gets split between the number of winners. So there's a judge panel, and those judges decide how to distribute that $15,000. So it could be one recipient, it could be split up between 5 recipients, in unequal amounts or equal amounts, or that judge panel makes all that decision. So realistically, it could be, we've had as few as 2, we've had as many as I think 5. Mm-hmm. So, grants that were ranged from anywhere from $1,200 up to $7,000 or $8,000. Mm-hmm. So the dollar amounts, can vary for sure.
Right.
And it's all about that presentation. But the funds for this particular grant program come from First National Bank and Trust, and it's money that they've set aside specifically to spur rev up business activity in DeWitt County in the area.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. What's the website for folks to check out that application?
Well, the best thing to do is go to DCDC's Facebook page, and there is a link on there, and it has Rev on there, and it will link to the First National Bank and Trust application website. So gotcha. This is their application. Mm-hmm. and DCDC gets involved after the applications come in.
So what does the application get submitted? What kind of happens next between that time where those are due and then obviously the presentations? What goes on between that time?
Sure. So the biggest part is review of all the applications that come in. So to make sure the documentation's complete, make sure it really aligns with the type of program. So for example, did the applicant leave off several items, and if that's the case, they're probably going to make it to the next round. Is it something, is it for again, is it $1 million project? That application probably isn't going to make it, but there's an internal review board at First National Bank, and they look at those applications, and they do that internally, and that assures them that any financial documentation that comes in is held in strict confidence.
I see.
So then the judging panel doesn't get all of they don't get the financial documentation in this particular case. It's really that they have met the criteria. So they really want to make sure that a business that's asking for, a $10,000 grant, and they've never had any business income ever, that's probably not going to qualify. If they haven't had any business income ever, why is that? Is it because they're opening up next week? Okay, well, that's a different story. But they're really looking at the business plan, the business concept, and those items. So again, if it's a dream, gosh, if I can get $10,000, I'll open up this business. It really needs to be a little bit further advanced than that. So they're going through all the pre-qualification portion.
Gotcha. What has interest been like in this so far? Do you know?
Yeah. So I've talked to probably 4 different individuals that have told me they're going to apply. I'm getting a lot of calls here recently, so I'm anticipating more. I have I'll stop at a business today that's asked about it as well. So I assume that they'll apply in addition to that. But my guess is there'll probably be about 10 applicants that come in. And again, they typically only typically there's about 5 that make a final cut. So I would encourage.
Makes it real competitive.
It does. But again, I would encourage people to apply. But again, do not wait till the last minute, because I can assure you there's some of the ones I know are good good uses for some grant money.
Definitely,
for sure.
Definitely. Well, Curt, when it comes again, Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, is in studio with us for this morning. When it comes to that presentation, I want to revisit that, because that can be just as important as the application from what you told us last month. How about that?
Sure. So the presentation is very important. So people are really good at putting things on paper. Sometimes people are really good at presenting in person. In this case, you need both. But your last impression that a business owner gets to make is with their in-person business presentation that they make. So that's the day that the judges decide. Who gets money, how much money they get. So those in-person presentations are important. So don't feel if you get called in that it's over. Make sure you prepare your sales pitch as to why those funds are needed and necessary and useful. From that being said, we've had people that said, well, I'll come in and wing it. It typically doesn't work. You want to be prepared for it, but it's not high pressure. It's not, it's a very comfortable atmosphere. My understanding though this year is it's actually going to be in a public setting, and the discussion is that they will do it at Clinton High School as an example, and which is a place they've talked about. So don't quote me on that yet. More details to come, but I know that was thrown out there as a possibility, and it would be a public setting, so the public could come if they wanted to, and that might add a little extra intrigue to the competition as well.
Sure. Talk to me a little bit about deliberation of the panel, and is it tough for them to break down 5 to 7 really good applications, and how do you fund them, and who do you give preference to? Talk about that a little bit.
It is. So I can tell you, I have been a judge probably the last 3 or 4 years, and I will not be this year. As I get more and more involved with each of these business on a day-to-day basis, I think the idea was that maybe I stepped away from that judge side of it. But it is really hard because there's some really, really good presentations, really good needs out there.
Right.
So the judge panel, again, that final impact of the presentation makes a lot of difference, but it does give the judges an opportunity to ask some questions as well and kind of help place orders of preference in their minds. So but it is tough because any of them that make the final presentation cut are probably all deserving of funds. So it is very difficult to decide how much goes here, how much goes there. But it's
do that publicly?
No. So all the presenters present, right after one another, and everybody takes notes. And then at the end of all the presentations, the judges meet for whatever time they need to. And sometimes that's been, what I consider a relatively short time, and other times it just seems to, there's a lot of back and forth discon on that.
So you have
kind
of
like a jury.
Yeah, well, that's what I equate this to when not community action, public, what's the Decatur organization? Anyways, they do this where it's like you apply for grant funding and they have to decide where it goes, and there's a lot of deserving, nonprofits that they give it out to and that sort of thing. So I just wondered, do you have to come to a consensus on who gets what and those sorts of things?
So we always have, if there's, I don't want to say argument's not the right word, but if there's ever a disagreement on funds, that gets worked out. Everyone comes into an agreement at the end with how funds are to be dispersed.
Interesting stuff. So when those presentations are November,
they're in November. I don't
9th?
have I believe they are.
Yeah. Okay. So when that is done, how soon after will a business know what they possibly receive?
Depending on time, oftentimes that evening.
Oh, okay.
But I always tell people within a couple days. So typically it's by the next day, but things can happen. I don't want to promise that, but it's within a few days.
Okay.
And then shortly thereafter they'll have a check in hand.
Gotcha. Very good. So look forward to that. Again, the important dates, the websites, the information they need to know.
The biggest important date right now is September 15th. It's the application. Go to DeWitt County Development Council's Facebook page. You'll find Rev Grant there. Follow that link right to the application. Look at the application right now, and so you're prepared with what you need to get together.
Sure. Very good. Very good. Well, let's take a time out. One more time. Where do folks go for that?
DCDC on Facebook page. Reach out. You can always call me as well. 217-377-3174.
Perfect. Curt Homann is the executive director of the DeWitt County Development Council, our guest in studio. More to come with him on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.org.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Started the day with a green screen as we prepare for the Labor Day weekend. September corn up 4 1/4, 465 1/4. December up 3 1/4, 481 1/2. March up 2 3/4, 496 3/4. September soybeans up 2, 1362. November up 1 3/4, 1370 1/2. January up 2 1/4, 1384 1/4. September wheat up a dime, 583. KC up 15 1/4 now, 741 3/4. Livestock contracts, lean hogs are down 57 for October, 81.97. Live cattle for October are down 57 cents as well, 180 1/4. Feeders down $1.25. It's the RFD Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to this Miller Media Group radio station. We appreciate you making the choice to tune in to us. We want to remind you of some things to keep the attorneys happy. Our stations allow one winner per household in a 30-day period. Cash prizes are mailed to our winners within 30 days of winning. And as you've probably already guessed, portions of today's programming on this Miller Media Group radio station were pre-recorded and are mechanically or digitally reproduced. There. Now we've made the attorneys happy. Thanks again for listening to this Miller Media Group station.
Your donations to Love It Once More Thrift Store in Clinton stay local to help local. This is Connie. Donate now and you'll receive a card good for 10% off your next purchase. So bring us a donation and help us help others. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, or DoItDailyNews.com.
This is Ryan Utterback with Utterback Real Estate. Selling your house on your own can be overwhelming.
Pricing, phone calls, showings, liability. Did I mention the paperwork and baking all those cookies for open houses?
And that's why you're the other Ryan.
For stress-free selling, click the Utterback Real Estate icon at DoItDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, is in studio with us here for this morning. And Curt, we talked Rev grants that whole first segment, but DCDC has some grant opportunities coming up as well. What's going on?
We do. So DCDC has its own grant program in addition to the partnership with First National Bank. So DCDC's grant program should open up around January. So if you find you're in a situation where you're not quite ready to apply, don't worry just yet. There'll be some more upcoming opportunities. We'll release that information after the November awarding of the Rev grant, probably shortly thereafter. So that keep that on your radar and follow us on Facebook so you know exactly when that happens.
What will be some of the qualifications?
It'd be very similar. Actually, it's very similar to this program. We've kind of tried to match them. We'll set aside 10,000 only, and the program works real similar, so there would be an in-person presentation as well.
Gotcha. Very good. So just be on the lookout for that information as well. Anything else going on DCDC wise you want to put out there?
Well, it's been a busy time, I can tell you that. So a lot of the items that we worked on a year ago, are starting to come to fruition. So there's going to be some cool activity that's going to happen downtown Main Street, and none of it, I don't know that any of it's a secret or not a secret, but you're going to start seeing a lot of activity down there.
Really,
the Dollar General, is going to be opening here in days, and not that DCDC had a whole lot to do with that. We had some initial contact from them and passed that on, but that's a new opportunity for consumers here in Clinton in the area to purchase some things. But there's definitely things going on, and I have the two different hats, so I want to make sure I get the golf outing,
please,
for Warner Hospital.
Let's do that one more time.
Boy, that is that's coming up next Friday already. And again, we turn that calendar, all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, it's here. But I'm excited. We're gonna have State Senator Sally Turner is gonna be with us that day.
Cool.
And then Taylor Baxter, the new Clinton city administrator, will be there. And there may be some others as well that are getting back to me, a couple of other. So, but there is still time. So I want to let people know that there is still time if you'd like to get out there for lunch and a donation, or if you want to get out there to play golf, there's still time to do that. But I need to know that pretty quick. So wanted to give one quick final reminder. It's a fun day. It's pretty laid back. We'll maximum have 9 teams, so it's not going to be a busy golf day. So there's still time for a team or two. If we go to 10 or so, that's fine, but it's not going to be an overwhelmingly busy course, so you're not going to be there waiting to play golf.
Perfect.
It's a great opportunity to make some connections and help support a good cause with Warner Hospital.
Definitely. I want to ask Curt, switching hats here for you from Hospital Foundation back to DCDC. You mentioned Taylor Baxter coming on as the administrator. What kind of conversations have you had with him, and what do you think? I mean, I think he's crazy impressive. How about that?
I'm glad you brought that up. So Taylor's going to join our DCDC board as well, and Taylor and I have had lunch, and then he did come to our last DCDC meeting, as a guest. We're glad to have him there, and I think he's a good fit for Clinton, he's pretty personable, and that's a good thing. It's going to go a long ways, and I think he's got some ambition to make things better that need better, and keep things going well that are going well. So,
how does DCDC and particularly in Clinton, the unique city administrator role that it is, it's not a typical administrator's role. How does DCDC and that role work together from your perspective?
Well, it is a unique form of government. And it's not my favorite form of government. It's really kind of an outdated form of government. I'm I'll get on the soapbox. I'm kind of surprised Clinton still has that type of government, but until that changes, it is what it is. And it doesn't affect how DCDC operates or that relationship. So, our goal is to build relationships with all elected officials in the county, whether it's City of Clinton, City of Farmers City, county board members, other municipalities, and just develop business. So, we're not in competition with any of those organizations. It's all a team. Our competition is making sure that a business opens up or stays in DeWitt County or in Clinton or in Farmers, within the county borders, as opposed to going somewhere else or opening up somewhere else. So we want to work together with every city or county official for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Curt, let's wrap it up with just one more time. Those Rev grants, the deadline to get those in coming up one more time, that information.
2 weeks from today, September 15th. Again, go to DCDC Facebook page, DeWitt County Development Council. Click on Rev Grant. It'll get you right to the application. Make sure it's all done and all complete and all submitted by September 15th.
Fantastic. Put it all there. Again, how do folks just follow along? You mentioned your grants coming up. Where do they find those information?
Again, always go to Facebook. That's where we post. That's where we post all of our important information and sometimes not important information, but the important stuff certainly shows up there. And if you ever want to just call and reach out, if you think you might miss something or need help with applications, absolutely reach out to me directly. You can message through Facebook or call me directly, 217-377-3174. That's my personal cell. You'll get me any time of the day.
Perfect. Very good, Curt. We appreciate you coming in, making time for us. Good to see you once again. Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, our guest in studio this morning. He put briefly on his hat for the Hospital Foundation as well, and we appreciate Curt making time for us as always. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Network